The tension between Nyren and Feu continued to grow, an unspoken pull that neither could resist nor fully acknowledge. In the days that followed, Feu found himself inventing reasons to call Nyren into his office, often assigning him trivial tasks under the guise of keeping him busy. Nyren hated every moment of it, but found himself constantly caught between anger and curiosity. The power Feu wielded over everyone, his cold control, and his quiet intensity drew Nyren in despite himself. One afternoon, as Nyren sorted through documents in Feu's office, he felt Feu's intense gaze on him. He looked up, meeting Feu's eyes, and the silent tension was almost unbearable. It was as if they were both searching for something in each other, an answer to the questions neither dared to ask. Nyren's face flushed slightly, but he refused to look away, determined to stand his ground. Feu's expression remained unreadable, but there was a faint, almost imperceptible softening in his gaze. "Why do you keep defying me?" he finally asked, his voice low, almost as if he were asking himself. Nyren met his gaze, unflinching. "Because you don't scare me as much as you think you do?" He couldn't help the slight smirk that tugged at his lips, and for a brief moment, he thought he saw Feu's mouth twitch in response. But just as quickly, Feu's guarded expression returned. "Be careful, Nyren," Feu warned, his tone steely once more. "Defiance has consequences here. You're only here because of your brother's mistakes." Nyren's jaw clenched. "And yet, you keep me here, making me your errand boy. If you think I'm just a bargaining chip, then stop treating me like, he trailed off, not quite able to finish the sentence, the implications hanging in the air between them. Feu remained silent, but his gaze held a flicker of something Nyren couldn't read, a silent acknowledgement that both unsettled and intrigued him. Finally, Feu dismissed Nyren, and with an irritated sigh, he left, his mind as clouded as ever. As Nyren continued his days under close watch, he developed an unexpected bond with Cheo, Feu's younger brother. Cheo's warmth and humor were a stark contrast to the cold atmosphere of the mansion. He'd often stop by wherever Nyren was assigned, bringing him coffee or simply chatting, as if trying to lift his spirits. One evening, Cheo invited Nyren to join him for a late dinner in the kitchen. They laughed over shared stories, and for the first time since his capture, Nyren felt like he could relax. Cheo was different from the others, free-spirited and lively, but Nyren could tell there was a hidden sadness behind his smiles. As they talked, Nyren realized that Cheo didn't fully approve of Feu's choices either. The two bonded over their shared discontent, and Nyren found himself genuinely caring for Cheo. But not everyone approved of their friendship. The Nom, Feu's right-hand man, was constantly hovering, a silent shadow ensuring that Nyren knew he was never truly alone. The Nom rarely spoke, but his loyalty to Feu was unwavering. Nyren couldn't help but feel a grudging respect for him, even if Phantom's unwavering stare was intimidating. One evening, Nyren spotted Feu alone on the mansion's terrace, watching the skyline as if deep in thought. Despite his better judgment, Nyren walked over, drawn by a desire to confront him. He wanted answers, to know why he felt this strange connection to a man who had brought such chaos into his life. "You don't have to do this, you know," Nyren said quietly, standing beside him. "Holding me here, treating people like tools." His voice softened slightly. "There's more to life than control." Feu's expression remained cold, but his eyes held a hint of vulnerability that Nyren hadn't seen before. "Control is all I know, Nyren. In this world, it's the only way to survive." Nyren shook his head, feeling a strange sympathy toward Feu. "Maybe that's what you think, but it doesn't have to be true." He looked at Feu earnestly, wishing he could make him see that there was more to life than power. Feu's gaze softened just a fraction, and for a moment, he looked almost human, almost reachable. "You don't understand," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "When you care about people, they become targets. Vulnerabilities." Nyren's heart ached at the words, realizing how deeply ingrained Feu's loneliness was. Maybe you don't have to be alone in all of this," he said softly, a hint of pleading in his voice. The silence stretched between them, heavy and charged, until finally, Feo looked away, his walls coming back up. "You're just here because of your brother," he said, his voice cold again, dismissive. "Don't think it's anything more." Hurt by the sudden shift, Niren turned and walked away, his heart pounding with anger and frustration. He'd glimpsed something deeper in Feo, a glimpse of a man beneath the ruthless exterior, and yet Feo refused to let him in. The rejection stung, and Niren vowed to guard his heart against the confusing emotions swirling within him. In the following days, Feo's attitude toward Niren remained as conflicted as ever. He kept him close, watching his every move, torn between the undeniable connection he felt and the need to maintain control. The Nom noticed the change, a silent understanding that grew between him and his boss, but he said nothing, loyal to the last. Meanwhile, Niren's friendship with Cheo continued to blossom, becoming a source of strength and comfort. Their laughter and quiet moments together became an escape from the tense standoffs with Feo. Cheo's presence reminded him that not everyone in the mansion was shrouded in darkness, and Niren clung to that light, grateful for the warmth. But the peace was shattered one night when Niren overheard the Nom speaking in hushed tones to Feo. Words about a deal, about Niren being nothing more than leverage. The reality crashed down on him. Despite everything, Feo still saw him as a pawn, a tool to manipulate his brother. Betrayed, Niren stormed to his room, slamming the door shut, his heart aching with anger and disappointment. Later that night, as he lay awake, a soft knock sounded at his door. Expecting Cheo, Niren opened it, only to find Feo standing there, his expression uncharacteristically troubled. "I need to talk to you," Feo said quietly, stepping into the room. Niren crossed his arms, the hurt evident in his eyes. "What more do you need to say, Feo? You've made it perfectly clear what I mean to you." "Nothing." Feo's jaw tightened, and for a moment, he looked almost vulnerable. "It's not that simple, Niren. Isn't it?" Niren's voice cracked, frustration boiling over. "You say control is the only way to survive, but what kind of life is that, Feo? You push everyone away, treating people like they're disposable." Feo's hand clenched at his side, a war raging behind his eyes. "Because I have to. This world, my world, it doesn't allow for weakness." Niren shook his head, stepping back. "Then maybe you should let me go. Because I refuse to be another part of your broken world." A heavy silence hung between them, filled with all the things left unsaid. Feo's gaze dropped, the conflict in his eyes breaking Niren's heart, but he couldn't allow himself to fall further into this twisted relationship. Without another word, Feo left, closing the door quietly behind him. The emptiness that settled over Niren was suffocating, and as he lay down that night, a single thought echoed in his mind. He would find a way to leave, to escape from Feo's grasp and reclaim his life. Yet, deep down, a part of him knew that the memory of Feo, the brief moments of warmth and vulnerability they'd shared, would haunt him forever.